Okay. Go ahead. It's all yours.
All right. All right, let's see. All right, so what I've got going is the local storage, this API. Let me get my, oops. Oh, come on, there you go. Okay. So mine's just kind of simple. I just did add a little explanation here. So there are two types when it comes to storage property, and that is local storage and session storage. We'll be mostly talking about local storage. Both behave fairly similar, but the differences between the two are that the data for session storage is wiped out clean after a session. So pretty much when you type out information, I guess like on a Google search, you type out what you're going to search for, and then you refresh the site, and that information goes away. I think that's a good example. Let's see. But when it comes to data in local storage, that data still continues onto multiple sessions. It doesn't go away. It doesn't expire, nor will the data go away when you close the browser. It'll still come back. I'm sorry, just a moment.
Get out.
Okay, I was freaking out that
I don't care. I don't want you coming out right now. Get back in there.
And you also hit.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries.
All right. So, all right. What was I? I guess before local storage, cookies were used a few years ago, and I mean that sometimes you kind of have to clean those off your computer at times.
Yep.
So, but now they've improved it by using local storage. A good example of that local storage is online shopping cart. When you go on like sites like Amazon or Overstack, you just add items to the cart, whatever you thinking about purchasing, and you could continue on shopping around, and then when you're done, you could go back to your cart, and all that information's still there. So it's there until the user either just purchase the items or just deletes them and stuff. So the syntax is to save data. You type out local storage, set item name, and then the value. And like here, it's an example, username, Walter. And then to access the data, you do alert item name, local storage, get item, and then the value of the item name. And here's the example for that. Same thing, you use the username. And the alert output would be username Walter. So on this, I have, let me actually get organized here. In this one, I also we get to use the, let's see, maybe it's not in this one. Okay, yeah, it's on this next one. Okay, well, I'll talk about that later. The stringify and the parse save for JSON. But in this one, objects, in this example, we create an API object. We set the item name and the value, where we create our own object and store it. Type your favorite color and retrieve the by clicking the display button after clicking the save color button. So just save a favorite or color or any color you want, save it, and this will right here display will that's not the one, is it? Yeah, display object. This is the show color, and it collects the information from the user, and you display it here, and then it shows you the color that you selected, favorite color, green.
Cool.
So this, it stores what the user adds in this website, and then it'll display it once right here. So you do the get item, output color, and then right here after favorite color, display that color that the user inputs. Now on the save array, we have this area, the arrays. So what you can do is, as you can see, you could type out at least four different colors, and then you save that, and it saves it as an array, like right here. It'll display the first color 1, the user input, color 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then those will be assigned to 1 color, 2 color, it just kind of switched. And then here, those colors are set in as an array. Now, in order to access that data, the color array, we use the JSON.stringify, because in order to get that information, we need a string. We need it to be a string. So it goes through this process right here, and then eventually it goes to the display array, and it reverts it back as an object. So as you can see, like right here, we could put, let's see, green. So it's going to stringify green, red, yellow, orange, and blue. So we save that array. And then down here, this is used as an index. So we can use indexes 0 through 4. So, and it'll show you what it says here. Remembers the array, what number the first item as numbers. Oh, I'm sorry. That's, every array starts off with 0 and not 1. So let's just choose 2. And then there it shows you what on the index, what color is on index 2. So, and then you can just change that to maybe, let's see, 0. And then it remembers what's on 0. So all this information is stored on the local storage. So, and then you just need to call it out here. So stringify and then parses right here. Any questions so far? I hope I'm not confusing anyone.
Nope. I think it's great. Good job.
Thanks.
So just making sure you JSON stringify and then you JSON parse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I guess what it says that we need to first stringify the array before
You put it into like an object?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so, and then when it comes to associative array, these associative arrays are with names instead of numbers assigned to each value. Let's build an associative array. Now here we can, here's the functions for associative array. We have the array right here and the display right here. So right here we do a if function right here. And then we call out the user input, name, food, music, movie and insect, and then we assign those to the array right here. So it shows out the values and the what do you call it? The properties? No, properties. Yeah.
No, key value pair.
Key values pairs. There you go. Thanks. And and then we go through the whole process, just as before. You do first stringify it, and then always in display we parse the information. So in here we have it as if, I guess I forgot to mention that there are some browsers that don't support the local storage. And so I put this right here, this if it doesn't, then I'll display this message. I am sorry, your browser doesn't support local storage.
Okay.
And then, so here we just, all it is just inputting the information, say Walter, say pizza, music, I don't know, country. I'm not a country fan, so.
So you must hate Walter.
And then B, so, and then we save our array, and then hit display, and there's the information. Walter, pizza, country, Star Wars, and B. I guess there was one more E. So yeah, it works the same as kind of the array and stuff. And
so do you know if you can store both local storage and session type storage at the same time?
I didn't think of that. I guess it does depend on the function, on what you want it to do.
Okay, because I've always worked with sessions with PHP, but I've never done local storage with JavaScript.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. I have never done sessions with JavaScript, so.
With JavaScript sessions. I wish I had found more examples on the session one.
Although it probably wouldn't be that secure if you had sessions with JavaScript because that's not pre-processed.
That's true.
Yeah, but even with PHP, you can go in and change session information.
Yeah, that's true.
Too, so.
Oh, really? I haven't used PHP in a long time. I need to start digging around with that. Is there any more questions you guys have?
I may have asked this last week. I think that's when we covered this the first time, or one time. Can you write and read from a text file, or to and from a text file with local storage? Or is that more of JSON or something like that?
I think it's more of JSON. Does anybody have any other information on that? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, so you can't read and write from a file using JavaScript, at least not on your local computer. If you use Ajax, then you can access a text file.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was planning on using for my final project. But maybe I'll just have to look into Ajax more.
Okay.
Okay, so you may be able to do that with Ajax, is that what you said?
Okay.
Yes.
Huh?
And
Okay.
I have an example of using Ajax on my website if you want to go take a look at that. So.
Okay, yeah, I can do that after the meeting. Is that within the spreadsheet?
I don't think that one was in a spreadsheet. That was one of the assignments that I turned in.
Okay, so I could just access your website from that spreadsheet, though.
Yes, you should
Okay.
be able to do that. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's my presentation right there.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm done
Great.
there. I'll
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
stop sharing. No problem. Thank you guys.
thank you.
All right. Whenever you're ready, Irina.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, my topic is about Java objects. And actually it's very basic topic, but it seems I have more questions than answers. Okay. I think all you know how to create objects in JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there are a couple of ways. Here is my little example. And I can show you how it works. Okay, you can see that this line should write all information about this object, my object, to the console. And we can see it here. It shows us type, DOM syntax is here, date created string with space. It's an attribute, and we already have an value for this attribute, my string. That's why we have here my string. Rand is the function, random. So it's a random number, and the name of the or key of the attribute is the random number, and the actual value is just this string. And the last one is object. Here I have a question. Do you know how to access this object? For example, like here, I have another object, and at the value for engine key, I have an object, and I don't know how to access this information.
So the way that you would access that is using a second pair of brackets. So the first pair of brackets would be for the first object. Then the second set of brackets would be which object within the object you're selecting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but is it possible to access through like this way? Or only?
Yes, you should be able to do that.
Like just put like this?
Give it a shot. I've never tried it with actual JavaScript objects. Well, I've used JSON, which changes into an object. So yeah, you should be able to do that.
Okay, let's check. Because for now, it shows like object.
Okay.
Yeah, it works. Now it shows the number of cylinders.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, also as a key or as an attribute of the object, we can have functions. We use it like methods, not attribute, but methods of the object, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in order to access method, we need to put brackets. And like instead of calling first name and last name attribute, we just can create function to combine both values and call not separate attribute, but call this function like this.
So it just does the names. Oh, is it just for the strings? Is that right?
Yeah, it
Okay.
returns like person, first name plus first last name.
Gotcha. Okay, I missed that. Sorry.
And it's just a string because all information in objects are like maybe stored only as string.
Gotcha.
So I have a question on your last line of 39, the full name function. What is the difference between just calling it full name and full name with the parentheses? Because it seems like full name with parentheses, that actually executes right there while it's getting it.
If we delete them, I will show you. It will just print us this line.
Okay.
Here.
Okay, so yeah, you need the parentheses just to make sure you execute the function.
I think JavaScript consider this just as an attribute, not as a method. If you put parentheses here, it see that it's a method and it should be executed.
Okay.
So if you put parentheses like on the ID values of the ID, then that should print out too, right?
That's not a function though.
No, I guess not.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we have some function here, for example, I don't know, maybe random or some other function, that it will work.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have a question. Andrew, maybe you can explain us how to use objects, because actually I'm trying to create some assignment using objects and I can't see how to apply them.
Okay, so what kind of object are you wanting to create? Are you just wanting to build an instance of this object that you built?
What do you mean by what kind of objects?
Okay, so you see on line 1 where you created a variable called myObject. So we use the new method, which is what we call in other computer programming languages a constructor. So it constructs a different instance of the object. So you could actually do a variable myObject2 and then create a new instance of an object, and you can actually save different information into that second object, even though it still has the same functionality that your first object has. Does that answer your question, or am I nowhere near what you were asking?
Now, I mean, like, how can we use objects in JavaScript?
Okay. Did you guys take a look at that little game that I put together last week?
Yeah, I looked at the front end.
Okay, so I actually used a whole bunch of JavaScript objects to build that. So the asteroids, the little blue asteroids in the background, those are all different objects. The red square is an object, and each of the lines that make up the maze is an object. So I created different objects with different dimensions that have that do slightly different things in the page, but they're all separate objects.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I could probably go over that with you guys if you want after Irina's done today.
Actually, I'm done, and I wanted to ask you to do that to explain you it would be great. I will stop sharing.
Good deal. I'll go ahead and do that. Let me. Okay. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let me see here. Okay, so if I go to my main page, open up my movement game, you guys can see my game?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so this red square here is its own object. These blue asteroids are their own objects. And to actually build this maze, it took me about 45 minutes.
Oh,
Each of these are different objects, and I had to say in JavaScript where to draw them.
gotcha.
But you'll notice some of them move on the screen and others don't. But this is one way of where we would use objects. So if I come and we look at the JavaScript here, so let me see here. Okay, so do you see here where I say new item?
Yeah.
So in here, I actually have 13 different objects that I have building on the page. So item is an object that I created in here. So you can see here, just like Irina did, I used the old syntax for using a function to create an object. And so I give it a width and a height, and I give it a speed, and tell it how to move. And then I tell it how to draw on the screen. So I actually have it drawing every object in the screen every 20 milliseconds so that it appears like you're actually seeing things move, but it's really just little snapshots that appear every 20 milliseconds.
That's crazy.
But then here we have our update game function, and so this is where it clears the old game board. We get a new position for different items if they move, and then we update their position and redraw them. And so you'll notice here some of these things don't move, like the pads on the maze, so I just update them and it redraws them on the game board every time.
Okay.
So this is kind of a complicated example. Do you guys have any questions about this? Anything that you're curious about?
So the thing that's nice about creating your own objects and having like instances of them is that you don't have to keep creating those objects. You can just use a template to create
Exactly.
those objects,
Exactly.
which makes it more efficient.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Makes sense.
But
So
anyway,
the name of your object is item, right?
yes, item is the name of my object.
So item.
And so I pass it different parameters into my constructor, which then uses those to go and build the object.
So maybe if you scroll down to the item function,
Function, yeah.
Okay.
so we're inside of function item, this dot width, this dot height, that's the this is all referring to the item, right?
Yes, the item
The
itself.
object.
Yes.
Yeah. And so if you actually did this dot whatever outside of that function, wouldn't it reference the object?
If you did it outside of the function, it wouldn't know what you were talking about and it would give you an error.
It would? I always
Yes.
thought that if you did this dot outside of anything, like that scope, it would reference the object.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So this, because we have 13 different objects in here, so it has to refer to the object itself. So any methods that we have within our objects, you can use this in, but if you use this outside of the actual template itself, it won't work.
Okay. So we use this dot width as like a shortcut of saying item dot width?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Means the same thing.
Is it possible to create this item object using curly brackets instead of function? Or why did you use function?
Because I wanted to instantiate these. Do you guys remember when I showed you the class syntax?
Yeah.
A long time ago?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's basically the same thing. This is just an older version, and I wanted to test it because I've never used it before.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it works the same way. It doesn't quite make sense when you have a function and you're creating an object. Because with this, you're setting the width and height, and you're kind of hard to explain. Have any of you guys taken object-oriented programming classes?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
So pretty much what your function item is doing is it's acting as a constructor for all of the
Exactly.
items that you're wanting to create. And if you scroll up to the top, you'll see all of those arguments, I guess they're called, or parameters. They're
Yes.
feeding into the item constructor, which is now going to create a new item object from that constructor. So it's more efficient to create these items because you're creating instances from that constructor.
Exactly.
So instead of doing like var lander equals new item brackets and then doing all of the key value pairs, you can get that just by putting in all of those parameters by creating a new item from the constructor function item.
Exactly, and the way we instantiate that is using the new, just like you said.
So Irina, it's just like a more efficient way of creating objects by having a constructor. So you just declare the constructor once, and you have it referring to the object item with this, and then dot, and then I think it's the property, no, key. Maybe it's the property. I get confused on that part.
Yeah.
The
But then
properties like the variables.
yeah. Then you can keep reusing that constructor to continually make new object items.
Okay.
Do you guys want me to show you kind of my more simplified example from a few weeks ago where I created animals?
That might help.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. So let me do that. Oops. Okay.
I think it was objects.
Objects, that was it. Okay. So in here, we create animals, right? So I want to create 2 animals, make random animals here. And these animals are produced using a single object. And in this case, we're actually using inheritance, so it's building these animals from 2 separate objects because we're using inheritance. And I'll show you how that works. So if we come in here, we have our base class, which is animal, right? So previously, we used the function methodology. This way, we're actually using a class which has a constructor. So this constructor would be like using that function functionality that you were using. Irina. And so in here, we have a name, we have a health, and we have an age for an animal. And in here we have getters and setters in case we want to change the values of these variables here for the animal itself. So this just has all the functionality of an animal, whatever animal it is. So an animal has a name, an animal has a health, and an animal always has an age. And in here, I have a class of shark, which extends animal. Okay, so this is a subclass of animal, so we're getting more specific into what kind of animal that we want. And so here, this super function here calls the constructor that's up here in the animal, and we pass it name, so that's how this constructor, or this variable here, is getting a value.
Okay.
And then each of these sub objects has different methods so that it'll output different things into the screen. And so same thing with wolf. It's a sub object of animal, and so on. And so what I do is I just randomly create a different type of animal and insert it into an array. So in here, I have, we grab the value that we insert into the text box and say make this many animals, and it goes into this for loop, and it picks a random number, and based on the random number, it will make one of these three animals, the wolf, the shark, or the deer. And so it'll go through and create an instance of all of those animals individually, and then what's going to happen, so we push it into the array, and then we display the animals, which we loop through the array and output all of the animals, the instances of the animals along with their functionality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I actually took a course on this. I'm taking it right now through Udemy. So I would really recommend purchasing that course. It's like $9.99. It's like the top one. So if you just type in JavaScript. And I do have a question about using that super to reference the main constructor.
Yes.
If you do class shark extends animal, aren't you already getting all of those properties from animal anyways? So you could just do the name without you referencing super or using super?
Yes, you could do that. Super calls the constructor. So in JavaScript, it's not a completely object-oriented language. And so you do have to call the super constructor to set anything if you are using inheritance.
Okay.
You're grabbing information and sending it to your base class. But if you're not using inheritance, then you don't need to use that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks for going over this.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
I really need to go through all of these, your websites, and just look at how you did it. That's why I created that spreadsheet. I've looked at a few, but it's interesting to go back and look at all the stuff we've done and kind of apply it to our new stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think we all understand quite a bit more now, just kind of looking back at things. Looking forward for the next, 2 or 3 weeks, do we want to focus more on anything and switch things up a little bit?
see. I have the repository spreadsheet up right now.
Let's see.
Well, I think Hiram's going over Ajax. I think that's the one that I really need more help on understanding.
Yeah, actually, me too.
And I don't know if Irina needs more help with objects, but that's in week 9.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know, is there anything else we need?
I think I'm good on most things. I only have 2 more objectives to turn in this semester, so.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, my daughter just came in from summer school. Go in there, sweetie.
Yeah, I think Ajax is really the one that I need the most.
Okay. I think that would be a good one to go over again.
I think so too. I think this is something that I really would literally like to look into more. Ajax. So hope I'll do a good job on that one. So
Yeah,
You'll
no
be
pressure.
just fine.
Ajax.
Guys, do you know if we have any requirements regarding our final project?
So for the final project, I looked over it. Half of it is based off of JavaScript. And the other half is based off of CSS animations and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So as long as you understand the animations, transformations, and that kind of thing, and you understand your JavaScript stuff, you should be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So for the final project, it's a culmination of all 13 topics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from now until week 10, you get at least a basic fluency in all 13 topics. And then from week 11 until the end of the semester, you create a new application with all 13 topics to receive working or skilled fluency.
So you use all of them on
One application.
application.
But you are working on that final project right now, right?
I received approval since I'm really close to finishing a lot of the topics with working and skilled. So I haven't really started, but I'm researching more on how I want to accomplish it.
Yeah. I actually need to do that too. So start looking into it. So.
But yeah, I don't think you have to actually start coding until after week 10.
Mhm.
So you got to make sure you have at least a basic fluency in all 13 topics.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. All right.
well, semester's winding down, more than halfway through. So,
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
It's nice. I feel like I understand more of what's going on in this class than at the beginning. So
yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
JavaScript, I've been lacking so much in that. I'm glad for this class.
Yeah, this was nice. I actually like the fact that we had to research the topics ourselves and figure out how they work.
Yeah.
definitely, that makes it nice. I've definitely learned a lot more about CSS this semester. So
Yeah, that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you guys taken the advanced CSS class yet?
not yet. I've
Okay.
helped people with that class in the lab at school, but
Yeah. I took it last year, fall semester. So pretty much what you do is you have a template HTML file. It's called CSS Zen Garden. And you can't change anything about the HTML. And you have to style the whole page using Sass, which is like a preprocessor for CSS.
Oh, wow.
But it makes it so much easier to style. Or
Really?
more efficient, really.
Are you guys taking like WDD? Is that like a WDD course?
Yeah, it's WDD 331.
331. Oh. don't think I have any WDD courses in my program.
But it really makes you think, like, how do I style this without just rearranging the paragraphs, or something like that?
Yeah.
And I can show you my site really quick that I did.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let me just copy that. Is there a chat with Zoom? There it is.
Say that again. A chat? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is, right there. Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you can't mess with the HTML. You can only use CSS, but they really push Sass, which I've kind of compared to PHP for HTML as it. I mean, like Sass for CSS as PHP is for HTML. It pre-processes all of your CSS, and it just kind of compiles it into that format, which is really helpful because you can create variables for your CSS, and you can use it throughout your document.
Okay.
So, but that really helped me for this class.
Yeah, I'm hoping I have enough room to take that class. So there's a few more web development classes I want to take.
Yeah.
Nice. I might maybe look at taking that class sometime after I graduate. So.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, did we want to change anything in our schedule then?
Let's see.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I mean, do you think we're beating a dead horse with JavaScript objects, or do you think we should keep that?
What do you guys think? I'm fine with objects, but that's just me.
I think maybe next time it's better to talk about Ajax, and next time maybe we can decide what we will discuss during week 10.
That sounds good.
Okay. So next week at Ajax, and then we'll see what we can do for week 10. Okay.
And who's gonna teach that next week?
I'm down for Ajax.
Okay.
So. All right. So. Okay. So next week, Ajax requesting a JSON file.
Sounds good.
All right. And then we'll talk about next week what we could do for week 10, I think. Or if anybody has any idea during these next few days, get us a message and stuff.
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Yeah, I just switched it within the document.
All right.
Great.
All right. Well, I guess I'll see you guys next week.
That sounds good. You guys have a great week and good luck with all your assignments.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.